Thunder Creek, Montana. 7 bikers from the feared Thunder Legion thought they'd picked an easy target, an older man in a wheelchair at a quiet gas station. What they didn't realize was that their easy target was Michael Iron Mike Reynolds. Not just a disabled veteran, but a former Navy SEAL turned Marine officer, now deep undercover with the FBI, investigating the very weapons ring they were running. It took just 30 seconds for 4 of them to hit the pavement, 2 to lose consciousness, and their leader to find himself staring down the barrel of his own gun. But what came next would blow the lid off a billion-dollar arms smuggling operation, expose a web of corrupt officials, and lead to the fall of one of the Pacific Northwest's most dangerous motorcycle clubs. Before we dive deeper, drop your location in the comments and let us know. Would you have seen this coming? And don't forget to subscribe. Tomorrow's episode, even crazier. Late afternoon lights spilled across Ray's gas and go as Mike rolled toward the entrance. Every movement sharp, deliberate. 5 years in a chair had turned it into an extension of himself. Under his jacket, his Sig Sauer pressed lightly against his back. The location was no accident. Clear sight lines, multiple exits, and direct view of the Thunder Legion's usual route. Ray Sullivan glanced up from his crossword as the door chimed. "Usual coffee, Mike?" "Thanks, Ray. Been quiet today, too quiet." Ray's eyes flicked to a security monitor. "Your friends just pulled in, 7 of them." Mike positioned himself by the coffee counter, adjusting his chair subtly. Ready. The rumble of engines stopped outside. 7 footsteps. Right on cue. James Ghost Kincaid led the pack, wearing the Legion's skull and bolt patch, flanked by Victor Bones Martinez, Frank the Butcher Thompson, and 4 junior members. Mike stayed cool, playing the role he'd been building for months, just another vet trying to start over. "Well, look what we got here," Kincaid sneered. "Our local hero taking up space again." Mike didn't bite. "Plenty of space for everyone." Kincaid moved in, his tone hardening. "Funny how you're always around. Always watching. Small town's getting smaller, you ask me." Then Thompson stepped in. The Butcher, known for more than just meat cutting. "Maybe it's time someone showed you you're not welcome." Mike remained calm, scanning angles, exits, threats. The bikers thought he needed clear paths. That mistake would cost them. Raising a hand, Mike played his part. "I don't want trouble." "You brought it," Kincaid snapped. "Always taking notes. What are you, a cop?" "Just a vet, trying to get by." "Liar." That's when Thompson made the mistake of grabbing Mike's wheelchair. Mike's left hand clamped down on his wrist, his other hand locking the chair in place. The move sent Thompson stumbling forward, right into Mike's elbow. Instant breathless collapse. 2 more bikers lunged. Mike let their momentum carry them. Wrong move. His chair spun. His strikes were fast, surgical. One prospect took a heel palm to the jaw. Another got an elbow to the temple, all in one fluid motion. Kincaid reached for his weapon, but Mike was already there. The chair's mods kicked in. He closed the gap, trapped Kincaid's wrist mid-draw, and slammed a strike into his ribs. Disarmed, gun reversed. Now he held the weapon. The remaining bikers froze. "FBI," Mike announced, voice calm but commanding. "Everyone on the ground, now." Kincaid, gasping, spat. "You're dead, you hear me? The Legion's gonna do nothing," Mike cut in. "Because in 30 seconds, this place will be crawling with federal agents who've seen everything." Behind the counter, Ray stepped out, dropping his crossword and flashing his own badge. What started as a routine stop just became the end of an empire. "FBI surveillance post! You boys really picked the wrong gas station!" Right on cue, a fleet of unmarked vehicles rolled into the lot. Agent Alexandra Shadow Morgan stepped out, face set with cold fury. "Months of surveillance," she said to Mike, "and they just handed us probable cause on a silver platter." Mike secured Kincaid's weapon and handed it over. Sometimes the best bait is what they assume is weak. As the Thunder Legion members were cuffed and loaded into vans, they didn't realize the full cost of their mistake. Attacking a disabled vet? That wasn't the real error. Their true failure was thinking the wheelchair made him vulnerable. They were about to learn just how wrong they were, and that lesson would burn down everything they'd built. Inside the Thunder Creek FBI field office, tension filled the air. Alexandra laid out surveillance photos while Mike rolled in beside her. The evidence was growing fast. Weapon shipments, altered military paperwork, known Legion associates. "You just moved up our timeline," Alexandra said, pointing to a photo of a remote airstrip. "They're running something big through here in 72 hours. Mike narrowed his eyes. "Those hangars aren't for bikes. That's military cargo staging. Bigger than we thought." Alexandra slid a classified folder across the table. "Remember those serial numbers you got last month? They traced to prototype weapons, top secret, officially destroyed in training accidents." Chief Cooper entered, holding fresh files. "Army confirms, 7 different bases, all paperwork perfect. But the weapons were never destroyed." Mike's stomach dropped. The Legion doesn't have that kind of clearance. Someone at the top is covering for them. Alexandra nodded grimly. "We're looking at corruption in procurement, maybe even Pentagon level." Mike rolled to a caseboard, pointing at territorial maps. "They've grown fast. 5 states in 3 years. They're not just a gang anymore. They're the supply chain." Ray Sullivan, still in his gas station apron, walked in holding a tablet. "Cracked Kincaid's phone," he said. "You need to see this." Alexandra's expression hardened as she flipped through the files, shipping logs, offshore accounts, contacts. Then, one photo froze everyone. A handshake. General Marcus Blackwood, head of Special Weapons Development, smiling beside Kincaid at a charity gala. Mike's voice dropped. "I served under him. Iraq. That's Blackwood." More photos followed. Blackwood exchanging briefcases with Legion members, inspecting crates inside military facilities. The implication was sickening. "He's their source," Mike whispered, using his rank to divert prototype weapons, marking them as destroyed, then selling them through the Legion. Alexandra wasn't done. "The money's not even going offshore. It's being laundered through veterans' charities, disaster funds, anything that looks clean." Mike's fists clenched on his wheels. "They're not just criminals. They're using the same system that's supposed to help us, using wounded vets as cover, selling out everything we fought for." "We've got 48 hours," Alexandra said. "After that, this next shipment disappears forever. But if we move too soon, Blackwood vanishes and takes his network with him." Mike studied the board. "They think I'm just a nosy vet. Let's use that. I'll play the part. Angry, loud, demanding justice. File complaints, stir things up. Keep their eyes on me while you trace the real deal." "It's risky," Alexandra warned. "They'll be watching." "Exactly," Mike replied. "Watching what I want them to." Chief Cooper added, "They're not subtle. They'll come after you." "They'll try," Mike smirked. "Probably send Thompson and some prospects to scare me off. I'd say we've got 6 hours before they show up. I'll have teams ready." "No," Mike interrupted. "If they see feds nearby, they'll spook. Let them come. I'll handle it. Alone." Alexandra's face tensed. "Mike, trust me, Shadow. The chair isn't a weakness. It's my advantage. While they focus on what they think I am, they'll miss who I really am." Ray nodded from across the room. "I've seen him train. They're not ready." Then Mike's phone buzzed. One message. "Last chance. Back off, or we show you what real pain feels like." Mike held the screen up. "Right on schedule. Tonight, they make their move. And when they do, they'll learn what pain really feels like." "This is crazy," Chief Cooper argued. "At least let us station some plainclothes officers nearby." Mike wheeled toward the door, calm and steady. "We can't risk it. One suspicious car, one unfamiliar face, and they'll abort. They need to believe they're in complete control." Alexandra stared at the tactical board, weighing the risk. "You'll be completely alone for at least 20 minutes. No backup, no support." Mike's reply was cold and certain. "Against Legion enforcers? I'll only need 5. As he rolled out, Alexandra turned to Ray. "Keep our surveillance wide. No close coverage. Nothing they can spot. But if things go south, be ready." Ray nodded. "I almost feel bad for them. They see a chair? and think that's all he is. They have no idea what they're walking into. If you're still with us, thank you. This story took a lot to tell. Subscribe if you're feeling it. Now let's get back to it. The streets of Thunder Creek were quiet as Mike wheeled himself home. To anyone watching, he looked like just another disabled vet. Alone, defenseless. But as motorcycle engines rumbled to life in the distance, Mike smiled. The Legion was about to learn the hard way. The most dangerous predator is the one they've already dismissed. His modest house sat at the end of a quiet street, outfitted with hidden security. As he ascended the ramp, he noticed the black van 2 blocks down, a motorcycle behind the hardware store, subtle shadows in the dark. They were already here, watching, planning. Inside, Mike followed his normal routine, fully visible through the windows. Let them think they understood his habits. Let them believe they had the upper hand. His phone buzzed. Alexandra. 4 in the van, 2 on bikes, Thompson's leading. Mike replied loudly, knowing they were listening. No, I'm not dropping the reports. The Legion doesn't own this town. He cooked dinner, exaggerated in his routine, all while tracking the shifting presence outside. Thompson was moving into place. They'd wait for darkness. At exactly 11:42 p.m., the power cut out. Amateurs. Mike had trained in pitch black. This wasn't a disadvantage, it was an opportunity. The first window shattered. 2 men entered, confident, loud. Behind them, the back door lock clicked open. Another mistake. They assumed darkness and silence equaled helplessness. They had no idea this house was a battlefield, and Mike knew every inch. Thompson's voice echoed from the hallway. Nobody disrespects the Legion. Mike didn't answer. His custom chair was silent as he glided into position. His advantage? They were looking too high. Check the bedroom, Thompson barked. Make it hurt, but leave him breathing. One man moved past Mike, unaware. A swift strike to the knee brought him down. The follow-up hit to the neck dropped him cold. Joey? Another called out. Too late. Mike was already moving, using stealth wheels to glide across broken glass. The second flashlight passed overhead, looking at head height. They still hadn't figured it out. Thompson's voice grew more tense. He's here. Spread out! Mike smiled in the dark. 5 years of adapting combat techniques for this exact moment, about to pay off. With a pivot of his chair, he caught the next man in the throat. Clean, quiet, fast. The enforcer gasped, then collapsed. What the hell? Thompson's voice cracked. No warning, no sound. 2 men down. Then he saw it. Mike's empty wheelchair abandoned in the hallway. Perfect. Let them think he'd been pulled from it. Let them think he was down. Another Legion enforcer stepped forward, reaching for the chair. Mike struck from the shadows like a viper. Years of upper body strength and combat training turned him into a force they couldn't predict. The enforcer dropped silently, nerve systems overloaded. Boss, this ain't right, one of the last men called out. We gotta go. Shut up, Thompson snapped, but the panic was rising in his voice too. Then came the whisper from the dark. Looking for me? Mike's voice seemed to move from wall to wall, room to room. The last man bolted for the exit. He made it 2 steps, before Mike dropped him with one final, devastating strike. The house fell silent. Only Thompson remained. And he was finally starting to realize this wasn't intimidation. This was war. Mike found the pressure point just behind the enforcer's ear. The man collapsed, unconscious before he hit the floor. Thompson panicked, firing blindly into the dark. The muzzle flash only made it worse, destroying his night vision. What are you? He shouted. Mike's voice came from behind him, calm and steady. Just a disabled vet, one you really shouldn't have underestimated. Thompson spun, but Mike was already gone. His next shot missed by a mile. And before he could aim again, Mike struck his wrist, sending the gun clattering to the ground. Thompson lashed out in a wild punch, no form, just fear. Mike slid under it, launching a series of perfectly placed strikes. Pressure points, nerve clusters, weak spots in the human body, all just as effective from the seated position he had trained in for years. Thompson went down hard. His consciousness faded as Mike applied firm, exact pressure to his carotid artery. Status, Alexandra's voice came through the earpiece. "5 down, all breathing," Mike replied, already zip-tying the enforcers. "Thompson's going to have one hell of a story when he wakes up. Local PD is rolling in. We've got the van driver too. He cracked fast. Gave us everything on the shipment." Mike glanced around his now silent house. "They'll have to reroute. No way they stick to the same plan after this." "That's what we want them to think," Alexandra replied. "While they scramble, we trace the real path." "Oh, and nice work with the security footage," she added. "It's already spreading through Legion channels." Mike smiled. The hidden cameras had captured every second. A so-called helpless man in a wheelchair dismantling their best crew in total darkness. By morning, every biker in the region would be watching that footage, over and over, trying to figure out how they got outplayed so badly. "Let them watch," Mike said as sirens lit up the night outside. "The more they focus on how I did this, the less they'll notice what we're really doing." He wheeled back into position, the role now set. Time to be the brave veteran who defended himself against a violent attack. Time to demand justice. They'd never realized they'd handed him the perfect excuse to move freely around Thunder Creek, always watching, always filing complaints, while the FBI tracked every move the Legion made. By sunrise, Thunder Creek was buzzing. Surveillance footage had flooded back channels. A disabled man taking down 5 enforcers without breaking a sweat? Unheard of. At the mobile FBI command center, Mike and Alexandra were already analyzing the fallout. "They're moving the shipment tonight," Alexandra announced. "Thompson's failure rattled them. Ghost called an emergency meeting at the Broken Spoke." Mike rolled to the board. "Who showed up?" "Everyone," Alexandra replied, laying out fresh surveillance photos. Ghost, Bones, Tech Wilson, even Marcus flew in from Seattle. "But here's the strange part," she added. "They cleared the bar, no prospects, no regulars, just top leadership." "They're scared," Chief Cooper noted. "Legion's never emptied their own base before." Mike nodded. "Because this shipment is different. Those prototype weapons, they were just test runs." Alexandra confirmed it. "The van driver said tonight's cargo is the real deal. Next-gen weapons systems. Enough to arm a private army, or start a war." "Any movement from Blackwood?" Mike asked. "Nothing obvious, but his route's suspicious." She pulled up a satellite image. "He's supposed to inspect Fort Harrison tomorrow, but last night his convoy detoured through Thunder Creek's industrial zone. Stopped at this warehouse for 30 minutes. Mike studied the image. "That's Legion turf. They use it for vehicle repairs, on paper. But we've always suspected more." Ray Sullivan entered with a thick file. "Remember those serial numbers you photographed? They don't just trace the weapons. Each one matches a specific military transport route." Mike froze. The pieces were coming together. "They've been studying convoy patterns, finding blind spots. They're not just selling weapons, they're selling the exact paths needed to hijack U.S. military shipments." "And it gets worse," Alexandra added, tapping into a secure terminal. "Tech team cracked Thompson's phone. It mentions something called Operation Phoenix, dozens of references to rising from the ashes, rebuilding the right way." Chief Cooper stepped forward. "Sounds like domestic terrorism." "Because that's exactly what it is," Mike said, pulling up Ghost's old military file. Before the Legion, Ghost served in military intelligence, specialized in tracking radical threats on U.S. soil. Now he was one, and they were out of time. "Ghost doesn't just know how to move weapons. He knows exactly who wants to buy them," Mike said grimly. The air in the command center thickened. This wasn't just a weapons trafficking ring anymore. The Thunder Legion had built an entire shadow network, masked behind leather jackets, bar meetings, and motorcycle runs. But in reality, it was a covert logistics system capable of arming enemies of the state. "We move tonight," Alexandra decided. The Fort Harrison meeting, the shipment, Ghost's coordination, it's all one operation, their big move. Mike studied the tactical screen. "They'll guard their usual routes tight, but they don't know we cracked Thompson's backup plans. We know every alternate path, every fallback protocol. The only question is," Alexandra added, "which one will they choose?" Mike allowed himself a cold smile, the one they're sure we couldn't possibly know about. They're spooked. Thompson's crew folded. They'll want maximum control. He rolled to the map and tapped a remote corner. The old mining road. Alexandra nodded. No cameras, no drones, natural choke points. Makes sense. Except it runs straight past Walter's ranch, and he's already reported Legion trespassers. Mike leaned in. So I file a complaint. Get the local sheriff to boost patrols. They'll see it. They'll pivot fast. Chief Cooper frowned. And risk losing the convoy altogether? No, Mike replied. They don't have time to reroute from scratch. They'll go to the only other viable option in their backup plans. Ray scanned the route data. Route 47. It's longer, but off the radar. They used it last year during the federal sting. Exactly. Mike brought up satellite imagery. Route 47 has something the mining road doesn't. Devil's Canyon. Natural bottleneck. One way in, no way out. Total dead zone for cell signals. They'll think it's their safest option. Alexandra was already deploying agents. We'll need everyone we've got. Once they enter that canyon, we've got 10 minutes to lock them down before they break through. Mike's tone turned serious. That's not the hard part. These aren't just bikers anymore. They've had military training, real combat experience. And if General Blackwood's involved, he knows exactly how we'll respond. Which is why, Alexandra finished, we can't respond like the FBI. Mike's jaw tightened. They've spent too long focusing on what they think I can't do. Tonight, they learn what I can. The command center came alive with movement. Agents suiting up, drones being deployed, surveillance feeds coming online. Mike rolled to the armory, loading gear he'd spent years developing, modified tools, customized weapons, gear made not just for combat, but for his combat. Because tonight he was the advantage no one expected. Devil's Canyon lived up to its name. Sharp rock walls, narrow road, total silence. Mike was positioned in a concealed alcove, his matte black chair melting into the shadows. High ground, full visibility, one shot at stopping them cold. Teams in position, Alexandra's voice whispered through his earpiece. Thermal scans clear. No scouts yet. They're behind schedule. Mike studied the synchronized movements of hidden FBI units across the pass. They're cautious. That warehouse meeting with Blackwood wasn't just about the route. It was a contingency plan. Speaking of, Alexandra said, Blackwood just left Fort Harrison. He's heading east, the wrong direction. Mike grinned in the dark. Perfect. If anything goes sideways, he claims no involvement. Classic military deniability. Ray's voice cut in. Movement at the Legion compound, 3 trucks heading south. Ghost is leading them. Alexandra blinked. South? That's the opposite of our intercept routes. Mike shook his head. No, that's exactly what we want. They're looping around, coming back to Route 47 from the other side. They think they're outmaneuvering us. Additional vehicles detected, Ray continued. Pickup trucks, motorcycles, heavily armed. They're not taking chances after what happened to Thompson's crew. Mike opened the compartments built into his chair. Hidden weapons, tactical gear, combat kits tailored to his body's strength and position. He wasn't just ready, he was the trap. Then, Alexandra's voice came through again. Encrypted channel just went live. Ghost is on a military frequency. Let me guess, Mike said. Coordinating with someone inside Fort Harrison? A pause. No, Alexandra answered slowly. Different frequency. And the voice on the other end, it's not military. These aren't U.S. military frequencies, Mike said, eyes narrowing, because they're not selling to domestic buyers. With that, the entire command center tensed. This wasn't just weapons trafficking anymore. This was international military compromise. General Blackwood wasn't just helping a gang move stolen arms. He was selling access. The weapons were just the bait. The real product? The ability to breach U.S. military security at will. Thermal signatures approaching from the south, Alexandra warned. 3 heavy trucks, 6 support vehicles, multiple bikes, 5 minutes out. Let them enter the canyon. Mike ordered. "We need them boxed in." Through his tactical scope, Mike tracked the convoy. Trucks moved in tight formation. They were trained, not just bikers, but pros. As they reached Devil's Canyon's narrowest point, Mike gave the signal. Boom! Controlled rock slides cut off the entry and exit points. Blinding floodlights flared. "FBI, kill your engines and exit with your hands visible." But Ghost's men didn't surrender. They deployed like a well-oiled machine, taking cover with expert precision. "You're out of your depth, Agent Morgan," Ghost called. "Stand down, or no one walks away." Mike stayed calm. These weren't average enforcers. They were ex-military. And if Blackwood was nearby, they'd have insider knowledge. Then it got worse. "Additional vehicles approaching from the east," Alexandra radioed. "Military grade? It's Blackwood's insurance policy." Just as Mike had predicted, they were about to find out he wasn't playing by standard FBI tactics. "Remember what happened to Thompson's crew, Ghost?" Mike called out. "You're about to learn that lesson again." As the firefight erupted, Ghost's forces moved with tactical discipline, but Mike was already ahead, using his chair's stealth systems to outmaneuver them. While the Legion scanned high, Mike moved low and silent, striking with pinpoint accuracy. Then came the EMP. Communications across Ghost's units went dark. Chaos followed. "He's behind us!" someone shouted. Too late. Mike used their confusion to eliminate teams one by one. His wheelchair, once dismissed as a limitation, was now a ghost in the canyon. Strike teams collapsed under pressure they couldn't understand. Their biggest error? Assuming Mike was vulnerable. Meanwhile, Blackwood's reinforcements hit a trap of their own, blocked by rock slides Mike had already rigged. His chair's remote sensors, combat tech, and counter-surveillance systems rendered them helpless. Ghost, desperate, screamed, "Snipers! Light up everything that moves!" Mike's voice echoed in return. "You're fighting the last war, Ghost. I'm not where you're looking." As his final move, Mike used cryogenic gas systems to fill the vault in mist. Enemies fell into confusion, vision blurred, radios jammed. Every step they took only played into Mike's ambush. 15 elite operators taken down in under 10 minutes. Ghost collapsed from a tranquilizer dart, just like Thompson before him. "Your demonstration worked," Mike said. "Just not the way you wanted." Back at Fort Harrison, Mike rolled silently through the base under the guise of a disabled veteran on a public tour. But his chair's scanners were mapping everything. Hidden bunkers, altered layouts, compromised guards. Blackwood wasn't inspecting. He was demonstrating. To foreign buyers. Live. His plan? Sell proof that the U.S. military could be bypassed in plain sight. What he didn't count on was Mike recording every second. "Those aren't military reinforcements," Mike transmitted. "They're part of the show." But the FBI was ready. The fake tour, a cover, the inspection. Exposed. Mike activated his chair's advanced surveillance mode, intercepting communications, jamming enemy signals, and redirecting base responses. As Blackwood's men tried to execute a real breach, Mike dismantled their plan in real time. They never expected someone to weaponize being underestimated. And that's when they made their final mistake, bringing Mike face to face with the real architects of the operation, Carson, Matthews, and Chen. They'd used Mike as a test subject for years, predicting how he'd adapt, studying every move. They thought they controlled him, but Mike had let them believe that, and now he turned their entire system against them. Every protocol they built, every assumption they made, every exploit they created, Mike had mapped, reversed, and neutralized. Their empire of control shattered not with a drone strike or a battalion, but with one man, in a wheelchair they never thought to fear.